And, for quite a few thousand years, 1,000 something years, Buddhism flourished in a very positive and healthy way. It sort of went up and down little bits, but it was basically able to communicate through into China, even to the west of India and north, Tibet, and then right through Southeast Asia, in a very healthy and very positive way, and very creative way. And then there was this difficult point where Islam basically destroyed Buddhism in India around 1,000 years ago, and it more or less disappeared. So it went up, and then it went down. And then, in the mid-50s, Dr Ambedkar did this quite extraordinary thing where he told the untouchables, of which there are millions in India, to get out of the caste system, we need to convert from or change from Hinduism to Buddhism. And I'm going to do that, and you can follow me into Buddhism if you like. And 500,000 people converted with him to Buddhism. And since then, millions of people have started practicing Buddhism. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them in relationship to this movement, Triratna, Buddhist movement. So you get that, and it goes down, and now it's going up again. And the number of practicing Buddhists in India is growing. Again, in certain parts of India, even though there is opposition from nationalist Hindus and so on, making it more difficult, but it is growing. And really, he did that, which is quite something. So I just wanted to, it's just one of the most amazing things he did. But so I wanted to come more to our era. So in the 70s, I had a position within Triratna where I was what is called it isn't a position that we have anymore actually, overall Mitra convener. People who are committed to Buddhism but are not order members yet are called Mitras. And I was traveling around the world, that was a great excuse, meeting people and teaching. And I was in India for about bit more than 5 weeks with the ex-untouchables. So the people who had converted to practicing Buddhism and therefore were not untouchables anymore. And it was very interesting because I met quite a few people who knew Ambedkar, and also our founder, Sangrakshita, or Bhante, as we called him. He had a very close and influential relationship to Dr. Ambedkar. So I went with a lot of background of knowing the situation. And it was really amazing to be in India with these, what you could call proto-Buddhists. There were people sort of just taking on there and then. I mean, it was quite small when I was there, and they would send a truck round with a loudspeaker saying, "Buddhist movement on the football pitch, 3 o'clock Saturday, come." And then, 500,000 people would turn up. It was really seriously big events. And one of the things that I remember from my time there, living with and being with these new Buddhists, you could say, was 2 things. One was they were really learning from scratch about what practice was about, what meditation was about, what mindfulness was about, because it wasn't really in their untouchable culture at all previously. So it was a huge learning hump for them. So that was one thing. And the other thing was, in a way, an awareness of Indians. And how, in India, how volatile they are. They can take something up with great relish and gusto like that, and they can go turn against you and riot like that. And things can change very, very quickly in India still. And I was sort of in the midst of that volatility, emotional volatility, which I don't think I had ever, well, I hadn't. I mean, I travelled a lot, but I had never seen that level of volatility before. And so when I was teaching, either in small groups or big groups, I was basically starting with mindfulness. And part of mindfulness is to keep the thread of what you're doing, staying with it and letting it develop. That, in a way, characterizes an important principle of mindfulness. And to say that they found that difficult would be an understatement, but we just kept with it, that you have an intention to do something, to follow something, and then you stay with it, you follow it. And it was very satisfying, actually, to be in that situation, to see people change using these principles of mindfulness and meditation and awareness. And so I'm just going to jump for a second that the Buddhist movement and the Buddhist world in India now is thriving. They have big custom-made retreat centres, regular retreats. They have areas where they have their own businesses and things for kids in villages and in the big towns. So they have a continuity with these principles. But when I was thinking about Ambedkar, I started thinking about his qualities and how he basically lived his life in an extremely opposing world. I mean, unbelievable. He was the only untouchable MP in Parliament. I don't know what was the right word. Everyone, including Gandhi, were against him. But they had made him first law minister, and he created the Indian Constitution, which made prejudice against the untouchables illegal. They hated it, but they had no choice. So his quality of being clear about what he was doing, why he was doing it, the bigger picture, and being persistent and determined are all qualities that are really clear that he had. But they're also qualities that we need. So that, in a way, is the transition, the segue to us now, from him and India to us in the Holloway Road. The determination to stay with your values and your intentions needs to be constantly and repetitively, it's not even repetitively, got there in the end, applied. That you keep remembering what's important to you. You keep applying yourself to your intentions. Because for most people, it's just really easy to forget. Forget to meditate, forget to be mindful, forget to pay attention, forget to stay kind. It's just really easy to forget. So we have to exercise and practice, that's why we call it practice in a way, these things. In the sense of being steadfast in our application of attention to being mindful, learning more and more about what it means to be mindful for ourselves, because there's so many throwaway cliches about what mindfulness is. Almost any organization is throwing away these little cliches, but we need to make them our own. And I think in this centre and in other Triratna centres, we actually do have a very deep and profound and lived understanding of what mindfulness is. It's not just off the shelf takeaways about mindfulness. So coming to the centre will always support your practice of mindfulness. And particularly these qualities of determination, being persistent and steadfast, and in a way, in a slightly different category, being courageous. You know, when we were doing the meditation before the tea break, you might possibly, might not have, which is a good thing, come up against something that was difficult, and notice that actually you jumped away from it, or you didn't want to know. And so part of the positive qualities that you need is courage. The courage actually to take in the difficult and to work with it. To be kind, to be open, to be expansive, to relate to it, to learn about yourself in relationship, to even how you give yourself a hard time, to say nothing of how you give other people a hard time. So courage is an important quality. So one of the results and benefits of doing this kind of practice that we did before tea break is it allows you to have a positive even-mindedness in the face of ups and downs of life. And it really, then something needs to be said about that. That doesn't mean to say that you don't take the downs or the difficult things seriously. It doesn't mean that. But what it means is that you're not triggered all the time into huge enthusiasms or huge despondency. You get to be able to have a broad, equanimous, even-minded awareness of the ups and downs, and to relate to them both creatively, rather than just through force of habit. So this equanimity actually links with what Ratnaprabha talked about last week, I think, of freedom. It makes you free, actually. It makes you free from just knee-jerk responses to up or down to what's happening, and allows you to have a rich, vibrant, positive, equanimous awareness of life, which has ups and downs. And so this, in a way, is a kind of wisdom. It means that you do see the ups and downs. You see them as change. And your response to change is both creative and positive. So I'm going to finish on this note, really, and say, well, we do have that opportunity of working on our ups and downs and how we relate to them. And that mindfulness is really, in a way, the foundation for